page Gimel in the pamphlet. We started the middle paragraph. About 10 lines into it, the line begins ubedugmah kozeis. There's an important principle that he mentions, so to speak, as a matter of course, but we ought to focus in and understand its significance and what it actually tells us. We have said that the kesser in every madrega is the ratzon. And we discussed briefly the two terms, ratzon and kesser, explaining essentially, not with that emphasis, but nevertheless we'll do it now, what is added by using the word kesser. Say ratzon is that which initiates everything. But then, when the ratzon contains internally within the ratzon, all that will manifest, will come forth from this ratzon. Then afterwards, when it is manifest, the ratzon serves like the kesser for all that came forth. The first principle to understand, and it is extremely challenging to understand that, what is the meaning that we say that in the ratzon is contained all that will come forth from it?
The other one.
So for this, we already discussed, we already presented a muscle, so to speak, and something that illustrates the principle. And I'd like to bring it back, and you should sense the significance of this. We always mention the principle Odom shein lebayis ein hayom, that a home makes a human being into a human being. Once a human being acquires a home, he does not leave it barren. He populates it, furnishes it with all kinds of human amenities, as we mention all the time. Now we need to understand, here's a challenge. These amenities, now where the tables and chairs are coming to the home, once you have the home, is this an afterthought? But initially, all he wanted is a place. Once he has a place, so now he realizes that he can have comfort in this place by having a table and a chair. Or are all of these amenities that come into the home, and including every last detail that serves a person in the home, were initially contained, included in the initial desire for the home. And here we ought to also distinguish between two different ways of looking at this question. It's possible to look at this question, like we said many times. A person wants a home, he wants protection from rain. Or he wants a home because he wants to have a place where he can sit quietly, peacefully, rest, which means he wants a place for a chair or a bed. So there, from that perspective, essentially what he wants is the bed. The home is the place that provides for the bed. But clearly this is not what we are saying. We are saying no, that initially he wants the home, period. In this desire, in this need for a home, internally in a very hidden and subtle manner are contained all the things that will further develop this home. So what we are saying here is there is initial ratzon. That's what initiates all further process. When this ratzon comes to full expression, and all that's contained in this ratzon is revealed, this is all what's called the whole Seder Hishtalshelus. In our Moshel, this is like the full development of this home. Okay. I'm not going to wait for answers. I want to point out this is the question here. To us, in our practical living, it seems that the most important thing in the home is the chair and the table and the bed. But this is not the case. The case that the Gemara says, Odem Sheila Bayis in the Od. The bias is what makes him into a home, into an Od. And that which comes in the developmental stages, that actually is rooted and it's contained in that initial pure ratzon for the home. What makes, so to speak, all machine buys any odd, what makes a man into a man? Is it the fact that he has a comfortable chair, or is it the fact that this comfortable chair is in a home, in his home? Like we said many times, to have a proper place to eat, you can go in a restaurant. You can go to a hotel and have a comfortable place to sleep. That does not make a man sense as being a human being. In other words, in the nefesh, the initial ratzon, the initial consciousness is on the most highest and the most peripheral element. When this begins to develop and say, okay, what goes into what, how does a human being use a home? So then there are many different ways I use a home. But that's on the lower level. That's on the level where this ratzon comes to seichel. What does the seichel have to do? Comes into seichel. The ratzon, for that you don't need any justification. I need a place, period. comes into seichel, you start saying, okay, what's in this ratzon? What is this going to give you? And the seichel should be able to relate to it. This is where all the various details begin to surface. How do you utilize this ratzon on the seichel level? Seichel and midas level. And this and on that stage, when it comes into seichel and comes into midas and becomes fully developed, then the initial ratzon, you mustn't lose sight, the initial ratzon to have a home, that becomes the kesser for all that transpires in the home. How do we explain the concept of a kesser? So we explained when we talked about the levushim. It says garments. There are all kinds of different garments. There are functional garments, starting from the shoes and clothes and so forth. Clothes that protect a person from heat and cold. Then there is a head covering, which is superior to all other levushim, in the sense that covering has an essential reality, principle. It's not what it serves, what its practical usage is. Shoes, you need shoes because you have to walk, not because you need shoes per se. Shoes are not represent, so to speak, the status of a human being. A head covering, that's where you begin to talk about what a human being is. In other words, those garments that are least based on functionality, and they're there only because this is a human being, this is the garment that really represents a human being at the most deepest level. Then it comes to the kesser, the crown. As you pointed out, crown serves absolutely no functional purpose in the human being. Not only does it not serve a functional purpose, as you pointed out, a crown is not even an ornament. An ornament is you put something around your neck. The ladies put on their, on the ears, a bracelet, something that ornaments a person. Crown sits on top. It's not even a comfortable thing. It's just sitting there. It's not even a garment in its full sense of the word. A king wearing a crown has to keep his head up erect, because if he bends it down, the crown is going to topple over. As we said, a crown is not even a garment, not even an ornament. It's a symbolic. It's symbolic what's going on in the question. What is the principle of a symbol? A symbol is that which you cannot express fully. You can only express it symbolically. This is what's called pshat, remes, dusha. There is a remes. A remes in the Torah means it's a remes, but it doesn't really express the whole thing. A crown is a symbolic of a human stature, of a supreme presence, but doesn't explain what it is about. Coming back to our home, there are all kinds. I said it's a fully developed home. What is the crown? What gives this home the full human value, representation? It is the home itself. The home is like the symbol that says this is a human home. This is not a comfortable home. This is a human home. And representative what a human being is, Odom shel Beis any Odom, that makes a human being into, and then everything else is contained within this symbolic status. This is that it's a kesser even after everything is developed. And then these things that are developed have a practical function. They provide comfort and facilitate, like a person can sit and learn, can write, and so facilitate various things. There remains the kesser on top of it. But why does a person have all of these amenities? Why does he have to sit and learn? Why does he have to be able to sit and write and so forth? Because he is a human being. Not because he has something to say. So this is our moshel for this, what the Rebbe is saying over here. That the ratzon is the initiator of the entire Seder Ishtalshelus. There are many different levels, as we said. The ratzon, the first ratzon, as we said, the ratzon that surfaced after the tzimtzum, which is what's contained in Odom Kadmon. In this Odom Kadmon, there was this ratzon for Seder Ishtalshelus. This ratzon Seder Ishtalshelus at that stage, as we explained before, because it expresses the reality and the truth of this Odom Kadmon, not because it serves anything. That's what ratzon. And subsequently, after everything is revealed, everything surfaces, there is a crown on top of it. In simple terms, payas, when a person behaves appropriately like a human being, according to the Torah. So this is something which they, it's a beautiful way to behave. This is becoming for a human being. What's the real thing? What's the crown of all that behavior? The crown of all the behavior is that he is recognizing, representing his Creator. That's the crown. All of the action, all the good things that he does is beautiful within itself, within their own context. You help people out, make the world a better place to live. But what's the crown of this? What's the reality behind it? Why to make a person, the world a better place to live, is alleviating all kinds of problems, making people comfortable and so forth. It's all very nice. Where is the root for that? Is this something which is, as I said, is this something which is of an afterthought? Oh, the person is suffering, make him feel better. Or is there a fundamental godly truth? There should not be any kind of negativity in the world. Why? Because there's a king, there's a godly presence. And to bring it a little bit closer, even something that we can even relate to even more simply, is the example of the cut in the finger. When you have a cut in the finger and the finger heals, there are all kinds of on-the-spot processes that take place in order for the finger to heal. This is the molecules that split and reconnect and so forth, and they fill in the gap in the cut. They create a bridge between the two sides of the cut. wonderful, and make the finger fully functional. But the crown is still missing. It's functional, but it's not real. When is the crown reestablished? This is a whole finger. When it heals to the point where there is no trace of the cut. The wholeness in it. Where does that come? That's from the neshama. Nothing to do with the finger. Nothing to do with the functionality. This is from the God and the neshama. This is God said this is the way it should be, and this is the way it should be. This is the crown. This is what the Rabbi is saying. And this is what the Rebbe is saying right there in the first line of this second paragraph on page Gimel, that kesser is b'bchinas mamutza. The kesser is the mamutza. From what we explained now, we can readily understand the implication in these words. Like we said just now, the finger should be healed and it should be functional. That is a requirement at the practical level, at the finger level, on the worldly level. You have a finger, it should be functional. It shouldn't hurt. The crown is that which reveals in the finger a higher quality. Not a worldly quality, but a super world, and a neshama quality. That's where the crown is the mamutza. The crown is the mamutza. It says, yes, there is a finger, and there's a healing process and so forth, but ultimately there is the crown of this, which means there is the source where this is coming from, and why does it have to be whole? That's a mamutza. It's a matzah. It brings him to this finger a concept that the finger doesn't even know about. This is that is a mamutza. It brings, and he says right then at the top line, Ben Hamatzil Netzolim. In Hamatzil Netzolim, this is what was created, and they consist in all kinds of different pieces and all the details that have to be put together.
The Netzolim is what being created or being revealed.
I'm sorry, what?
The Netzalim is
being
created. No, because you said created, but another
emanated,
emanated, revealed.
Revealed. In this context, it's the same concept. This is what she comes to reveal, which means it consists of many details. Like Netzalim, there are 10 spheres, not one. 10 spheres.
So this created. Okay, this is being created.
In that context, I'm not distinguishing.
Okay.
And into that realm of the Netzolim is brought the element of Matzil. The Matzil, that's perfection itself. This is not a composite of many details. Like we said, in the case of the finger, it is not that the finger is healed and it's not broken up, it doesn't fall apart. All the pieces are glued together. It's one piece. There's one thing.
I thought we spoke later on saying that there's things we do. Unless that's what you want.
It's not many things come together.
Rabbi Paltiel?
I know, but you told me that.
Okay.
Rabbi Paltiel?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, can I ask a question?
You can ask a question.
So ratzon is higher than kesser. Kesser is the mamutza between ratzon and what's below. Is that correct?
Well, in a certain sense, because ratzon is that which precedes the gilui, kesser is that which encompasses after the gilui.
But they're not the same thing.
Please go away. What are you doing here? You're learning.
Hello?
Yes.
They're not the same thing. Ratzon and kesser are not the same.
It's the same thing, two different madreges in the same thing.
Okay. Two different madrigas in the same thing. In terms of midas ha'adam, we normally say we have Ayin and ratzon, and then next comes chokhmah. So, is there a name for what kesser represents in
Arich. In kesser there are two madreges, atik and arich.
Okay, so this is the arich.
This is the arich.
I got you. Thank you.
Paltiel.
Yeah.
You're saying that the finger doesn't recognize this state of perfection. Are we saying the same about the netzalim, that they don't recognize the matzil? Is that the same idea?
Well, there is a different. That's where the difference between netzalim and nivroim. Nivroim are literally separate entities, and when they get an input, an illumination from that which is above them, it really is something which is a completely different thing. They can take it only through beetle. The Atzolim, they really understand it. In the Atzilus, the Inner is fully appreciated.
Rabbi.
Yeah.
Based on the metaphors we've been using to describe this, is the kesser something which provides, in other words, out of this kesser could not relate, the lower cannot relate to the higher, or something which reflects that there is a higher element, a real element to it? Does it reflect or does it provide?
Bring it down to my level.
Then the king's crown. Without the crown, the king is still a king. It's not that the crown makes the king a king. So I want to say Adam she'ene bias in Adam, is that the Adam's really an Adam and he has a bias. This shows that he's an Adam, or the bias makes him an Adam?
I think that's what he said.
Okay. If we provide a house with all amenities to a dog, will he become a human being?
No.
So clearly what we mean to say is, Odom she'ene bias in the Odom means that he's not an Odom on the functional level. He has not taken up his position to the fullest. But he's a human being who should take his position. But he has not yet taken his position. Clearly, this is not what makes him into a human being. There are plenty of human beings come into a place, you give them a place, and they're slobs.
Would we say Melech, Kesser, Enu Melech, that's the same Inyan, or it's different there already?
Well, Melech, we have to, there is the Am, the people upon which he is reigning, they make him into it, they give him a crown. Because the whole principle of crown is to reveal the Melech. The Melech on his own is really above this whole thing. I think I want to go through this piece that because we discuss it now in a more clear way. We'll start on the third line, at the end of the third line of this paragraph. V'hainu, shalidei hisoir ruz horotzin kaviyochol, as a result of the rotzin coming forth, which is hisoir horotzin. Nasim bebechinas shaychos l'hadova shenisoirir bei. Then that brings about the element of being connected or being related to the thing to which one is nisoirer. We'll go into the moshel lamato and we'll discuss this thing. Averech moshel ba'odam lamato. To use the metaphor of a human being here below. The koidem shenisoirer be'eze rotzin le'eze dover. Where prior to his being aroused to a rotzin for anything, any kind of rotzin, Harehu moved out mimenu legamri. Then he is totally remote from it. Bein lo yishaychus klal lo zeh. And he has absolutely no relationship to this thing to which ultimately he has a rotzin. V'kasher nisoire berotzin al zeh. And then, when the ratzon surfaces for this thing, harehu b'bchinas shaychus. Then he is has a shaychus to this inyan. We discussed already before the principle of ratzon. And even today, ratzon, you have to understand, ratzon is not an afterthought. In other words, the circumstance brings about that I should want this. I'm hungry, so I want to eat. The principle of ratzon, which is why ultimately it's called a kesser. Are an illustration of the person, of the man in the gutter, who is lying in the dirt. And when you approach him and you want to take him out of the dirt, he says, "Leave me alone, I'm happy over here." And we all concur that when he says I'm happy, he is not telling the truth. Inherently, he is not happy. He really wants something else. Where is that ratzon at that point? Huh? Where is it? It's hallelujah.
It's self-denial.
Where is that ratzon at that point? Let's understand. This is something which can only be understood going back to the primary stage. What is a human being? Did a human being create himself? Did he develop from the amoeba or from a monkey? A human being was conceptualized and designed by God. Before he even came into being, he was planned to be a human being. He is totally his status and what the design of this human being is totally independent of how he ultimately acts and lives. But the Gemara says, Nezem Zohar be'av chazir. The Mishnah says, Nezem Zohar be'av chazir. Nezem Zohar be'av chazir means if you have a gold noseband. Today, a noseband is not used for decoration, but let's say an earring, a gold earring. So you go and take a gold earring, with all its beauty and all its richness, and you hang it up on the ear of a pig. Does it beautify the pig? Totally incongruous. Does the Nezem Zohar cease to be a Nezem Zohar? That's the question. The Nezem Zohar remains a Nezem Zohar. But you have not, it's not in a position to reveal what it is. The human being is a real presence. In other words, he is not a human being as a result of his experiences and all the things that he was able to prove what he can do. He's a godly creation, conceptualized by God. In other words, the truth of the human being exists even before he was created, as I mention all the time. There's a planning stage. In the Torah, there's a planning state for the human being. He existed before he was created. That's how real, how true he is. This is a human being. And no matter what you do with it, where he ends up, in what dirt he's lying, doesn't change it. Things has not changed. It's a painful thing to see. Total abuse. But he remains a human being. And if you do force him out of that blood, you pull him out. You force him to take a shower. You force him to get dressed. You force him to begin act like a human being. It will surface. It has to surface because it's real. Now the Alter Rebbe says the whole thing is to clean out, to remove the begodim hatzoyim, to remove the dirty garments. Once you remove the dirty garments, you have a bright neshama. The ratzon represents that reality. The ratzon is not a circumstantial desire. The ratzon represents the reality of the human being.
I haven't had this difficulty. When you said that the human being was created by Hashem, but the human being also has a father and mother. How we do reconcile the whole thing?
When Hashem created the human being, He also formed his body from earth, or from Adam. But then afterwards, He put into him a neshama. That remains true today as well. The father and mother provide for his body, and they provide the levushim by which the neshama will connect to the body. But the neshama itself is still continuous.
What's that levushim, which was just mentioned? That the father and mother provide the levushim. That's machshava de b'masa.
Ultimately, it comes out in machshava de b'maisa.
I missed what you just said, Rabbi Paltiel. The neshama is ultimately itself a labush?
No. The neshama comes from neighbors.
So what did you say about labush?
The parents provide the place, the goof, and they provide also a labush through which the neshama relates to this goof. It says that the parents, in addition to maintaining all the halakhic requirements of the Talmudim, their pure thoughts at the time of conception, that creates pure levushim for the child. Pure levushim means many different things. Number one, he has an neshama, but which direction is it? What's the tendency? Is the tendency towards ruchnius or towards gashmius? The tendency there's one who, even in our own experience, one who understands something and he's because of his background, whatever it is, he tends to look for the tangible, and then there's one who tends to look for the conceptual. These are a refinement in the person. So the levushi has seichel. Seichel also has levushi. And then there is okay.
Yeah, I probably put what I don't understand is a Russian. Conscious are based on ratzon ezer davar who move men l'gami ve'eno shaychus klal zeh. But what I understood from the beginning of this year, that even the functional aspects is contained at least clandestinely within that ratzon, even within a person wanting a house clandestinely, you have also wanting a table. So what's kind of eno shaychus klal?
Oh no, that's really the shaychus klal is before his soirus haratzon.
Okay.
Soirus haratzon. This is already a further step. But the person exists before the Seder HaRatzon. Before the Seder HaRatzon, this is the neshama, the way that Eibishter has put it into the roof.
So before the rest, so you still had a shaykh to Eibishter.
Yeah.
Before the Seder HaRatzon, in the Nimshul. In the Nimshul, the year has
this shachas of Eibishter is not through a ratzon. The shachas of Eibishter is because that's what he is. A ratzon is when that begins to surface.
Okay.
What does it mean? What does it mean, shaychus?
Like we have the example of the man in the gutter. He has no idea what it means to live like a human being. He does not have a ratzon to live like a human being. He serves a ratzon. He lies in the gutter and he says, "Leave me alone, I'm satisfied." When you wake him up and he gets a sense of oh yeah, I would like to live like a human being, that's when he begins to connect to a shaykhs, to human life on the practical level. It doesn't mean that it doesn't have it inherently, but in a shaykhs or davar. This thing is outside of him. As we know, the ratzon hu loshem marutza. That ratzon is actually denoting the root word of ratzon, which is marutza, which means a chasing, a running after. What does a running after mean? The hoinyan, which is the principle of hatoyo v'hamshachal shenimshach le'ezedov. He's drawn to something. He becomes interested in something, and then he becomes interested. That's hatoyo, and then becomes drawn to this thing, and then he's drawn to this, and he wants to come closer to this thing. This is the ratzon. Again, I want to reiterate, which we very easily lose. When he has a hatoyo le'ezedov, and he is nimshach, he's drawn to this thing. He is drawn to this thing due to the true meaning of that thing, not because it gives him any kind of satisfaction. That's not ratzon. Let's understand these words. When a person is not hungry, so he doesn't want to eat, he has no shachas to eating. There's no shachas to eating. Very much has shachas to eating.
Everything has its time.
Huh?
Everything has its time.
Ratzon means something different. Ratzon is not a circumstantial need. Ratzon denotes and relates to the reality of the person himself. No matter how many times we repeat this, it's almost impossible really to understand. It is impossible to understand because this is a godly presence. Let's go back to the finger, to the cotton finger. The finger heals perfection. We don't understand the significance of that. We see the difference, but we don't really understand what's in it. Functionally, it's perfect. It's perfect. Why do we want the finger to be perfect? Where does that come from? And if you have a scar, even if it doesn't interfere with our functionality at all, something is bothering us. What is it? And again, just to run this thing to its point, if you have a scar on your foot that's under the sock and under the shoe, bothers us. Not only because it shows and people will look at my finger. Not because it's a blemish in the person in terms of functional thing. It doesn't represent what I am. Why not? functionally, because I'm a godly creation. God does not create half-mass things. Like the halacha is, a kohen to do the avodah in Beit HaMikdash must be perfect. He cannot have any kind of blemish, even if a blemish doesn't interfere with his function. A scratch on the lip of the sheep renders it a balmum, and you're allowed to put it on his bed. What's wrong with the sheep? Brings to mind, I remember in France, in Brunois, so we used to bring chickens for caporas and all that, and in boxes, and this chicken got squeezed between the two boxes, and he died. He was killed in that squeeze. So we took out the chicken. There was a goik over there. Said, "What's wrong with this chicken? Give it to me." She instantly took the chicken, cut off the head. I gave a chicken. To us, this is nevela. Couldn't even think of relating to the chicken.
This ratzon lashon merutza is running. I don't know if I'm getting what we're hearing inside in this word running. And then it goes nimshach the ezudavar, which sounds more like it's drawn after something. So nimshach versus merutza sound like different movements, different.
Why?
Well, I guess I'm not understanding merutza then.
Merutza means a running forth. In other words, he is not contained within himself. He comes out of himself.
Yeah.
In the nefesh itself, this is the union of merutz, of ratzon. That the nefesh should be drawn, should be interested in something outside, which is called, and the nefesh is not contained within its own presence, but it's running out of itself.
Yeah. Yeah. Just running out of itself. Okay, we clearly said it's not on account of any lack, so then it's on account of some kind of shlichus, some kind of.
Right.
And then, if that's the case, okay. So that means.
Let's take the example of Odom Shein Beis and Odom. A person wants to have home. For his personal life, he doesn't lack anything. He's got plenty of money, he can live in a hotel. Like this Howard Hughes used to go every day in a different hotel. We say he didn't have a human life. He did not have a human hive in terms of what impact am I to have on the world? He didn't have that merutza.
And what is the his urus? Meaning, the nefesh is
Okay, the
whole unto itself, right?
Right.
What's the nature of that if it's not the kind of the regular kind of arousal which we think of as kind of lacking or attending to something in the world, or even on a more positive element of being inspired? I mean, his urus is like being inspired, perhaps?
Yes.
Awakening.
But being inspired, on the nefesh level. But the neshama itself says, yeah, that would be a good thing. All right, let's pursue this. Prior to the Hisidus Ratzon, he is totally remote from that thing. Has no connection to that thing. Although inherently he is a human being, like in our example, but there was no revelation of that human quality. That's what he said was a ratzon. And therefore he has no shaykhus to it. Okay? The koyim shenisayna be'ez ratzon. Okay, we have this place. The line begins with Rutza. Before that, he was aroused with any kind of a ratzon. He is in a state of havdalah, which means that he is. In this case, it could mean that he doesn't have any ratzon at all. He is in havdalah. He is totally remote into himself. Hainu, which means b'bchinas aliyah behelem be'atzmi b'yeser. He's in a state of aliyah. He rose up to his essence in the concealed crevices of his essence. B'yeser means to the extreme. I'll try and give us a little bit of a sense what this is about. There is a process, what's called hisamkus. In order to reveal chokhmah, one has to be mizboinen, extremely connect to the inyan extremely deeply. He doesn't know what he is trying to understand. He's just digging into a certain inyan. And then the chokhmah comes in the form of a borag hamavrik. What is he digging into? From which the chokhmah comes in borag hamavrik.
The word you're using is amkus from Oymek?
Oymek, right. This hisamkus means that he really goes back, so to speak, into his nefesh. And he's trying to find an answer, so to speak, from his nefesh. What is this about? And then when it comes from the nefesh, this is from the depths of the nefesh, from the depths of the truth of the nefesh, it comes the day gilui, in an expression. At that point, it's just a spark that says, here is what it is. This is not something which is elaborated, because the nefesh does not have it in an elaborated state. The nefesh has it inside the truth itself, inside the nekudas emes. Therefore, it comes with like a borag, like a spark, and then but this spark enables him to delve into the spark and to draw from it the whole seichel. Draw from it the whole seichel means that now he has got a revelation from his nefesh. And from this revelation from the nefesh, he draws to understand how this is in his world, in his state, in the Bina. And it always remains rooted in the Chokhmah and in the Nefesh. Although it is now fully comprehended and elaborated on in the Bina. Let's take the example of what we are discussing the whole now time. We say a person's finger has to be perfect. No matter, and we explain, as long as it's a scar, it's not perfect. Where do we get the idea of this perfection? The scar doesn't bother anything, doesn't interfere with functionality at all. The perfection we didn't get from seeing the scar. We got it from a deeper union, as we discussed, from the Nefesh. This is a godly creation, it has to be perfect. From there we got the idea that it has to be perfect. Once we got the idea it's perfect, we're going to say, oh yeah, it's not perfect. But then, as we're observing it and say, oh yeah, it's not perfect, it still is based on the concept perception in the Chokhmah. Not that if we focus in that it's not perfect on the Gashmizical level, then we go off completely in the wrong tangent. So, this is something which is illustrated. We have these examples in our world. You have to be clean. Cleanliness is something which is a human quality. But a person, when people focus in on this cleanliness, beyond the initial concept on the human level, on the seichel level, they will go crazy. They go crazy.
Hard use.
Huh?
Hard use. Hard use?
No, hard use hasn't. They go crazy because they attribute this reality in the world where it's not real. The reality comes from a different source.
Hey.
I mean, I don't have to be familiar with this. This is not really a phenomenal thing.
Okay, the error they attribute. How is that said? They attribute.
Once you put emphasis on the cleanliness, the whole thing of cleanliness is called Ayin, but But once you define it on the goof level, there's no limit.
It's like saying as if it's rooted.
I'm sorry?
As it's like if we would say as it's rooted from the world, not from.
That's right. That's what happens. We lose sense of, because we lose the illumination, the chokhmah. There is a very serious illness. It's called ex-classic. A girl stopped eating; she can't eat. It's called anorexia. It's a horrifying thing. It's a horrifying thing. And people actually lose their lives in the kindness. It's when you lose the connection to where what this is all about, or the source of it. This is what we're saying. its main source in the ratzon, in the nefesh. When the ratzon is behiserus, then he has a shaychus to the sinyan. Who is he? The nefesh.
It could be a nefesh they get in, but because I don't have the ratzon for it, then I won't relate to it.
Yes, that it has to be Yisrael's Haratzon. But the important thing is that Yisrael's Haratzon is it remains source in where it comes from. Because then at that point you become a shaychus to the sinyan, but that should not become an independent presence.
And how would you call a ratzon, let's say, if someone wants to eat because he's hungry?
That's not a ratzon.
What's that?
On a deeper level, there is an element of ratzon in the fact that he does not want to be discomforted. And the reason he doesn't want to be discomforted on a deeper level is because he wants to be able to do what a human being is supposed to be able to do. To be able to learn and daven and so forth. That's on a deeper level. But the initial sense that he is discomforted, this is
Instinct, maybe?
it's a reaction, huh?
Instinct?
Urge. It's a reaction to urge. The Horayim, the Havil, the animal also has that ratzon.
But a person should react to his instinct.
A person should react to an instinct, not instinctively. In other words, we have this union that we know that we're hungry, which is a very important fact. People who don't feel that they're hungry is in sakona. But yes, I'm hungry, so therefore what? Therefore I lose my human stature. I'm going to eat anything that comes my way, and eat in disrespectful. No, I still retain my human stature. This is it for this morning.
One said I think so 2 weeks ago about kesser.
Huh?
About kesser. He spoke about kesser.
Yeah.
Is it the same like in Moichem, Ochn is the Nakuda, and from there is Ben and Das being derivative? Is it the
yeah.